I'd like to acknowledge country because I couldn't do it in chat as a panelist. So I'm joining you all from the Jagera, Yagara and Yugara people's country. So I'd like to pay my respects also to all the mob on this webinar and who'll be viewing it once it's posted online, and to really just acknowledge the ongoing support from our ancestors and our elders to do the work that we do every day. For those of you who don't know, myself and Louisa Sully, an incredible Torres Strait Islander woman, joined as two other independent board members to the National Mental Health Consumer Alliance earlier this year. And boy, has it been a fun journey. I tell you what, one thing that I really would like to acknowledge, and I'm going to put out there, is that I consider this strategic plan a landmark piece of work that really, for the first time in everything that I've done across many organisations that I sit on the board with and organisations that I've worked with, has actually genuinely, across all levels of the strategy, really given due consideration and thought to how First Nations people can be self-determined and what that leadership really looks like from a national alliance to not only give us the space to lead this work, but also to elevate and support what we have identified are those needs. And those needs are quite complex and varied. For those of you who don't know, from the 1st of October, the Indigenous Australian Lived Experience Centre is now a fully self-determined independent organisation. And I'd just like to take a quick moment to acknowledge and recognise the support of the Black Dog Institute from the beginning of when I established the centre. Myself and many others had lots of conversations around where was a good place for this to percolate and really kind of get out there. What can we do? What's the support that we needed? And Helen Christensen at the time, and followed by all of the executive team and the board of directors, were incredibly supportive and have been supportive as we've been on this journey to transition into an independent, self-governed organisation. So myself and Tony Lee are co-chairs of the board, and we have had such an incredible journey of how do we actually, first of all, inform First Nations lived and living experience in mental health suicide prevention, but how do we really kind of start to express and explain that it's different? And I know that people can really relate to that in the way that, you know, we talk about it here. Everyone's experiences are unique and they are different. But for First Nations people, we also have multiple layers of issues that we're dealing with on top of that, including systemic racism and issues with not being considered, not being included in the conversation. And so I'd like to applaud my fellow directors and Priscilla and the team and everyone for being so supported to actually really make sure that we've got such a strong voice and are included in the vision and the work of the Alliance more broadly. So thank you for that. I think it's really important for us to remember that, you know, these things are very high level. And I've noticed in the chat, there's a lot of really kind of, you know, detailed questions, and that stuff will come as we do work. The board members have given great consideration to what does this really look like to get the people who aren't sitting around at the tables really involved. How do we get those people who are in rural and remote spaces an opportunity to inform the conversation, to look at setting the agendas and to be included in the reform work that's happening more broadly? And I think for us as First Nations people, it's really important that we actually lead that. And that's where the role of the Indigenous Australian Lived Experience Centre really comes in our national network. We've done a lot of work, including a full rebranding, naming of the centre, which was genuinely co-designed with all of our national network members. And it was really great to be part of that experience where it wasn't about the board members making a decision on something. It was a collective decision, quite a complex one that Eliza led for us, where we really were able to ensure that our vision was heard and at all levels of the organisation. We have a lot of experience, and some which I just wanted to share briefly with you, because I think, you know, we talk about these things in these spaces at such a high level, and a lot of my experiences were as a younger person, and unfortunately in the last few years I've had a significant setback in my own mental health challenges. So for those of you who don't know, I've got severe depression, so clinical depression. I've got complex anxiety. I've got complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I've got an eating disorder and a range of other health issues that is not uncommon for First Nations people. What that means for me is that at least once a month, I'm spending probably a couple of days putting all my energy into fighting the illness in my head and staying alive. And yet I'm still afforded the opportunity to sit in spaces like this and to help support and really kind of drive, how do we get this right? What isn't working and how do we do that? And First Nations people aren't often considered, and it's something that I've worked really long and hard to do. I will say sometimes it's a weekly thing, and unless you've experienced it, you don't know how hard it is and how much energy it takes to actually keep yourself alive when your illness is saying that you don't want to be here. But I think for me, it's the collective work of our people. It's all of the people that I've met along the journey. It's my elders, it's my leaders who continue to do that. It's actually organisations like the Alliance committing to 2 First Nations representatives on the board. That is unheard of. And that is where I think we're doing things differently, and we're really acknowledging not only that it's not reasonable to expect a First Nations one person to put perspectives from everyone in the country, because that's not appropriate, but also to acknowledge the 2 distinct cultures. And Louisa Sully brings a lot of incredible expertise as a Torres Strait Islander person to that space. So I, again, would like to thank everyone for that opportunity. Just in finally kind of closing, I think some of the stuff where this strategic plan is really important, there's a lot of things that happen that we don't get an opportunity to talk about. I have personally witnessed and had my own experiences of racist treatment, of being treated like someone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, of not being able to access appropriate supports and help when I needed it in a culturally appropriate way. And there's a lot of things that sit behind, you know, the resourcing issues and all that kind of stuff that we know. But the one thing that I've seen, and that has been built through the Indigenous Australian Lived Experience Centre, is that we consider ourselves a family. And that gives us great strength in the work that we do, and the beautiful people that we have who are working and living in rural and remote communities, and take those opportunities to really provide them an opportunity to share. And for people to get the experiences and understanding that they would never actually have the opportunity to do. But just in closing, thank you again. I really do applaud this strategic plan. Please make sure you have a look at it. Think about what you can do in your own organisations to really actually support First Nations governance and leadership in this space. We've got a lot of work to do, but we are all working towards the same goals.